Mr. Mayor, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Welcome everybody to the Township of Oro-Medonte Council meeting of Wednesday, March 26. Before I call the meeting to order, just a few items. Before we read the land acknowledgement, please silence your cell phones while in chamber. When members of the public come to speak at the podium, please adjust the mic so you're clearly talking into the end, as this meeting is being live streamed and recorded for review after on YouTube channels. Excuse me. The Township of Oro-Medonte acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people and an ancestral territory of the Huron-Wendat. The Anishinaabe include the Odawa, the Ojibwe, and the Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. It continues today as the home for diverse Indigenous people, including the historic Métis community in Penetangwishing. The Anishinaabe people come to have an enduring relationship with this land, specifically the Chippewas of Rama First Nations, the Chippewa Tri-Council, and the Williams Treaties First Nations. The Huron-Wendat also continues to pay respect and protect their ancestors and heritage on this land. We honor the Indigenous history and culture that has thrived for millennia in the territory and the treaties that bind us together as partners in the spirit of a shared, sustainable, and prosperous future. We are all treaty people. Our commitment begins with acknowledging the truth so that we can move forward together towards reconciliation. Which I just want to let everyone know Councillor Young sends his regrets, and I know Councillor Clark is running about 10 minutes late and will be joining us shortly. Madam Clerk, may we have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
Moved by Lavoie, seconded by Hutchison. Be it resolved that the agenda for the council meeting of Wednesday, March 26, 2025 be received and adopted as amended to add as item 15B, correspondence dated March 19, 2025 from Alex Nettle, Mayor, City of Barrie, Boundary Adjustment Provincial Facilitation Process, and to withdraw the closed session items under heading 18.
Thank you very much. I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Is there anyone that has a pecuniary interest to disclose on today's items? Seeing none, closed session will be dealt with under item 18. Minutes of council committees. May we have a draft motion for the 2 minutes, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Lavoie. Be it resolved that the draft minutes of the council meeting held on Wednesday, March 12, 2025 be received and adopted as printed and circulated, and that the draft minutes of the Heritage Committee meeting held on Monday, March 17, 2025 be received.
Are there any amendments to the draft minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? There's none. This week we have no recognitions of achievements and introductions, not that we aren't achieving a lot of things. I know we are. I guess we could give recognition to the finance department for all the hard work they've done on the budgets and getting it all ready for tomorrow. Thank you very much. Public meetings, we have none. Deputations. Jennifer Whitley, would you like to proceed with item 8, please?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm just going to do a brief introduction to this project. So in the 2024-2027 corporate strategy, economic development was identified as a priority. Specifically, Council emphasized the development of employment lands and well-planned growth. This includes the ongoing implementation of our guiding master plans, the economic development strategy, and the employment land strategy. Ensuring well-planned regional growth remains a high priority. With successful grant funding and support from the approved 2024 township budget, we have been actively working on a business retention, expansion, and attraction project, also known as the BREA. This initiative focused on industrial and commercial areas as well as agricultural operations within the township, specifically along the Highway 11 corridor, but also across the entire township. We have completed multiple steps in this project. In Q4 of 2024, we ran a business engagement program as part of the BREA project. This included questionnaires and interviews completed by businesses, agriculture and farm operators, and vacant landowners. We also completed focus groups with the agriculture sector and staff engagement, in addition to feedback from the Economic Development and Agriculture Roundtable volunteer groups. From an Oro-Medonte staff perspective, I would like to thank Kim Bergeon, our project coordinator, for all of her work on the business engagement and administration of the project, and from the development services team, including Brianna, Paul, Andy, Gary, and Brent, and of course, Donna, for their participation. We wanted this process to be a collective and collaborative team approach, and we value the knowledge and expertise from each of these divisions. The information gathered from this process has provided insight to the municipality and our partners, such as but not limited to the County of Simcoe and our business support organizations, to better understand the challenges and opportunities faced by businesses and landowners. Our goal is to enhance economic growth in Oro-Medonte, focusing on the right kinds and types of development for our rural community. This can include, but is not limited to, business resources, expansion plans, and the attraction of potential future investment opportunities and the growth of the businesses that are here. Through this process, we have contracted consulting services for the analysis phase of this project. Osterband Strategies was contracted to work through reviewing all of the data and information collected, in addition to other resources and information that is available. This then allowed for us to work together and draft recommendations for the township's consideration. This project has provided an opportunity for stronger engagement with our business and community and partners, and for our township to continue to foster a thriving economic environment. I am now going to pass it over to Catherine Osterband to provide a short presentation to highlight information found in the draft report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Whitley. Ms. Osterband, welcome to the chamber, and please proceed when you'd like.
Thanks so much, Your Worship, and thanks for that intro, Jennifer. So it's my pleasure to be here today to share back the findings, the data, and the recommendations of the Business Engagement Program. Jen gave quite a good background, and I'll just ask you to jump to the next slide there as I jump into it. But really today, the goal is to get a little bit of opportunity to share some of the data collected and the action planning and get your feedback and any questions you might have. There's an additional feedback opportunity, so if you didn't get a chance to read through all of it today, don't worry. You'll still have some time to weigh in. But just to give that background, so this involved 139 virtual or in-person visits with your business community. Businesses were across a range of different sectors, from your manufacturing, commercial retail, service, tourism, and agriculture. You also included 9 landowners or land representatives of vacant underutilized land properties in the township. As Jen mentioned, it included a review of background documents, the tourism action plan, the economic development strategy, employment land strategy, or corporate strategy, and there's links identified in the report to each of those elements. It included a labor market analysis as well. So how have your key sectors changed over recent years? And we took that into account as we considered the actions. We also included an agriculture sector focus group because that is a key focus in the community. And also we were concerned about the participation rate in the survey as we were planning that focus group. We had 37 participants come out to those sessions, both for larger and smaller producers. So some really good participation there. And then we also shared this draft action plan with staff and your economic development and agricultural roundtables. So this is not necessarily a surprise for some around the table today. But we did collect feedback there and incorporate any additional insights. Next slide, please, Jen. So overarchingly, the data pointed to success, to a rosy picture, at least at the time, in Oro-Medonte. So 54% of businesses had grown over the past 2 years, and 58% envision growing their products and services over the coming 2 years, and 28% plan to expand their physical footprint over the next 2 years. Great news. Also, where are those businesses going to go? Things to consider, right? 41% of those businesses plan to hire more full-time employees, and 66% are anticipating sales growth. So lots of positive sentiment. Again, this was, surveys taken over the fall term. So we don't have necessarily our finger on the pulse on how the economic uncertainty with tariff threats and those sorts of things have changed. But we certainly tried to kind of anticipate those as we develop the action plan as well. On the vacant and underutilized landowners and representatives, 89% of those property owners indicated that they had plans for their property over the next 5 to 10 years. For 44% of them, that may include selling their property. 89% said that they were interested in learning more about sharing or advertising potential development opportunities within the County of Simcoe, and 100% of those respondents indicated they were interested in making further connections to discuss potential opportunities for their land. So, I mean, the land may be barriered in several ways. We'll chat about that soon, but the interest is there to support the development of that land over the long term. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share kind of an overview or summary of the key themes that we heard in a bit of a SWOT format. So from a strengths perspective, we heard, I mean, this is not going to come as a surprise to you guys, but, you know, Oro-Medonte's strengths, one of its key strengths is its location. I mean, you're connected to 2 major highway corridors. A lot of community or a lot of businesses see you guys as a bit of a gateway to the north or gateway to the south in that way. So there's a lot of great transportation access. The highway connections make it excellent. You're situated between 2 very large urban areas to additionally support with the labor market and also to support with products and services as well. You're a desirable place to live, so beautiful natural area. Lots of businesses spoke about moving here because they wanted to live here. They opened their business here because they want to live in this community, and also because it's a beautiful place to live. It lends itself really well to the tourism sector. At the time people relocated here, moved their business here, or started their business here, the cost and availability of space and opportunities to develop was a big pull. So thinking about how that can feed into your broader strategy kind of going forward is a kind of consideration to think about. The Lake Simcoe Regional Airport, and just, you know, a number of businesses mentioned it as an opportunity. Obviously, it provides another transportation connection into the area, and there's a significant vested interest at the county level to see that development happen, and a lot of opportunity spinning off from Pearson, which has reached its capacities in many ways. The other really exciting thing that I love to read as I'm doing the data analysis and as I'm talking to businesses is one of the key strengths is businesses really support each other in Oro-Medonte. Like a lot of businesses mentioned, you know, we have really good connections with other businesses in the community. They're always referring customers to us. We've created new partnerships to work with them. So that was really celebrated and came through pretty strongly in the data that there was a lot of good connection. Now, that wasn't everyone. So thinking about how do we make sure that that's a more inclusive environment, but that was one of the most mentioned themes throughout all of the data. So really great to see that B2B business to consumer, business to business and business to consumer energy. Jumping into challenges now, several folks spoke about road safety and the challenges that came from traveling on roads, and particularly in the agricultural sector, where folks they found were speeding or, you know, perhaps just not patient as their trucks were moving down the roads, particularly during busier seasons for them. The workforce and access to workforce came up as a challenge, and that was punctuated by transportation and housing. So folks spoke about the opportunity that there is the Lynx transit system already stopping several places in Oro-Medonte, and, you know, there may be opportunities to enhance that as well, to look at how do we enable the workforce to access those employment opportunities. The infrastructure piece, so servicing of employment lands, just becomes a challenge when you think about expansion, the cost to service land, the cost to access or the ability to access things like the internet, which are almost essential on a day-to-day basis these days for running a business. There were several respondents who noted that they were still hoping to get internet, they still needed that internet, but also several who had mentioned in the past couple of years they had high-speed internet had come to their door front, and it had made a significant difference to their business. So really, really key piece of infrastructure to focus on, but also kind of the hydro and the gas as well came up several times. The protection of farmland came up as a discussion item and as a concern. and particularly keeping farmland productive. As part of our background data analysis, we examined OMAFRA's census of agriculture, and in terms of agricultural land in production, the actual acreage shrunk by 25% over a 5-year period. So big focus on how to, we know the policy is in place to protect and retain that agricultural land, but we need to ensure that that land remains productive and can be continued to be used for those agricultural purposes. So retaining that farmland and protecting its use is important. Veterinary services came up as a challenge for your agriculture sector. Large animal vets are quite hard to come by these days. And on the plus side, we were told that horses now qualify for pet level veterinarians, but the rest of your livestock does not. So that's a concern for farmers to be able to access the veterinary services that they need for their large livestock and regular livestock. And then that minimum distance separation from expanding your operation. So just some of the challenges that farmers have experienced in terms of thinking of expansion, and then, thinking about where that expansion fits with the increasing amount of residential properties that are popping up, and how do we all kind of get along harmoniously and work together to preserve that land, to help farmers thrive and also ensure residents are happy and healthy here in the community as well. From an opportunity perspective, a number of businesses talked about they're here and they own their business here because they purchased their business. In the recent years, that has become more common, and your community development corporation, based up in Orillia but serving this region, offers a program to really support businesses through that succession planning and try and finding a match. So really an opportunity to try and play with as the population ages, and maybe some of your business owners are aging with that, to think about how do we make sure these businesses stay in the community and we can get new life and new people into the community to maintain them. Land, space, and availability. So I know that was a strength that was mentioned, but also when we were talking to businesses, it came up that that's also a challenge. So trying to find affordable land, trying to find land that has the right servicing, and then when you're ready to grow, like where is the right spot where does the right physical footprint to fit into within kind of the cost basis available. So there is land available, just how do we unlock some of that right now? Remote work. So, home-based business comes up in one of the actions in terms of how do we better support home-based business, but remote work was one of the key reasons as well. Many people relocated their business or their operations to Oro-Medonte because it's a desirable place to live. People want to work here. They want to, have that work-life balance that Oro-Medonte can offer. Where they can easily access, beautiful nature, but also have access to the great amenities like functional internet and all those sorts of things as well. The growth that's just coming, you guys are experiencing a lot of residential growth right now. A lot of businesses talked about experiencing recent growth, expanding their marketplaces, recognizing that, new residents were bringing new businesses and new opportunities into the area, and that was overall expanding their market opportunities. Enhanced connections. So how do we, again, if people are really benefiting from the business to business connections, the referrals that folks are getting, like I said, most people spoke very favorably of that. A couple of people felt otherwise. So how do we ensure that we can create a welcoming environment to bring everyone into the fold to build those better business connections and enhance resiliency? Technology adoption and innovation. So on the lens of a lot of folks, particularly as we think about climate change adaptation, as we think about increasing productivity and competitiveness, and something to think about kind of going forward for enhancing your business community overall. A lot of businesses talked about the opportunity to employ new technology to enhance that productivity. Improved awareness of the business community and kind of hand in hand with that market development. So again, businesses felt they had good support from the consumers, from the business community, but they felt awareness could be enhanced. Almost 100% of your businesses wanted to partake in a GIS searchable business directory. So there is a big demand to really better connect and better create awareness about who's in the area between businesses and business to consumer as well. And lastly, that communication piece. So How do we enhance communication around some of the challenges that businesses are facing? Maybe it's around planning and permitting processes. Maybe it's ensuring that businesses in your community are finding out about all of the great workshops that are going on within the community. And I know your team is very diligent about that, but looking at ways that we can kind of work with the business community to make sure that they are picking up the information that's being shared as well. And then we'll just quickly move on to threats here. So we talked about kind of that aging population, retirements coming up. So many of your businesses have been in operation for many years here. Thinking about succession, I think, is important. We didn't ask the question around succession to every business, but specifically the agricultural sector. In the agricultural sector, while every business recognized a succession plan is important, only 50% of them had started a succession plan and none of them had actually completed a succession plan. So I imagine that's a subset of your broader business community as well. So thinking about how do we help those businesses think about some of that transition down the road. Just that general economic uncertainty, I mean, every time you open the news, it's a different story. I won't get into it. We are all living the current economic reality. Competition. So again, as growth happens, as more businesses move into the area to take advantage of that growth, some businesses are noticing that they have increased competition as well. So that's challenging their ability to be successful. Climate change and the impacts that's going to have on different sectors, most notably your tourism sector and your agricultural sector, but other sectors as well are starting to plan for climate change as well, like things like wildfire mitigation or other, efficiencies within their operations. The lack of processing capacity, so that's a big challenge for your agricultural sector. It's not unusual in any community in Ontario right now. Mostly when I do consultations, farmers are taking their livestock 2 hours one way or 2 hours another way. So they're just generally the province has a lack of processing capacity, and that's a challenge for your sector here as well. And just operating costs. So we've seen, inflation is going up, continues to creep upwards. Interest rates are finally creeping downwards, but they have been on an upward swing for some time. So businesses are just feeling the uncertainty of those operating costs there. And I realized just as I'm going through, I did forget to mention one of the challenges that was mentioned, which was around the planning, building, and permitting processes, because this did come up several times. And I did contextualize this with your development services staff, that this is, again, one of those things that I hear about in every community I work with. It doesn't matter what the community does. There's always like this negative sentiment around development services. So there were some challenges identified there. I sat down with your team and, some of it is process and planning, and, it's just challenging for businesses to deal with, like the time and cost of the regulatory process, but there are opportunities to improve the process as well. Next slide, please. Thanks, Jen. So just to quickly touch on the vacant and underutilized land. So the status from the landowners and representatives is a little bit complex. So the development of the land faces challenges in several areas. So zoning alignment, it might be approved to be employment lands in Oro-Medonte, but hasn't been adopted yet in Simcoe County yet in their official plan. So they need to wait for a decision on that. Servicing limitations. So some of them would like to, cannot bear the cost of servicing at the moment right now. The multiple approval bodies. So often the planning process is quite confusing, and that is challenged even more when you add in additional approval bodies like the conservation authorities, like the Ministry of Transportation, which, obviously has a big influence on any highway corridor properties, which are some of the most desirable out there. The time and cost of the process. So again, we talked, some of that is just regulatory. It's expensive. Sometimes it takes time. And if it's not done properly the first time, it can take much, much longer and be much more frustrating. So we have some recommendations to try and streamline that process as well and make it a little bit easier to understand, but just the overall complexity of the approvals. So what bodies am I chasing after for which timeline to get what step moving? It's complex for landowners to navigate on the best of days. So those are some of the holdups that folks are facing with developing their land. Next slide, please, Jen. So the draft action plan, if you look at your report, within each action area, the actions that have been developed are ranked by priority, and there's a consideration for who's the lead and who's the internal and external partner. It also identifies any corporate strategy that it links to, so the economic development strategy, tourism action plan, employment land strategy, your corporate strategy. And it includes KPIs, key performance indicators, to help you understand if you're making a difference. Economic development is a very challenging sector to assign KPIs to because, as we just looked at, there was a very rosy picture of folks looking and thinking about expansion in the coming years. Based on the current environment and the changes that we've seen in the geopolitical landscape, that might change. Their expansion plans might change, and that's really not going to be the fault of your economic development office. The best that you can really do is kind of monitor the trends, where they're going, and try and tap into immediate sentiment. So from a key performance indicators, we've included annual business surveys. So that will give you that on the ground feedback of what's going on, why things are changing. So, is this a township problem or is this a general economy problem? And then what sort of levers can the township pull locally to try and adjust some of those? And then beyond that, you want to continue monitoring your labor market information. How are your sectors changing over time? And again, if there's strategies that you're driving towards, of course, you want to monitor those particular sectors. And then the building and permit data. So again, we talked about this quite a bit, because there's multiple approval bodies involved, you might not always have the full control over how fast those approvals get done or how many permits get processed, or the appetite for building might be decreasing, again, because of the environment that we're in. But the best that you can do is kind of monitor and tell that story along with the data that you're collecting and the feedback that you're hearing from the business community. So unfortunately, it is a bit tricky, but there are some really solid KPIs identified in there to help kind of monitor what direction your economy is heading and if your tactics are working or not. Next slide, please. So jumping into the action areas. So the first action area is planning and development, and the objective here is to establish a strong reputation as a business-friendly municipality by enhancing and simplifying planning and development processes. So there are 6 actions in this area, starting with enhancing connection and information sharing about businesses walking through development services door. So economic development can also support them and hold their hand and keep them informed about any support that they can provide or any additional assistance that they can leverage, all the way to hosting an annual event to inform the public, your business public, on commercial and industrial development services processes. So trying to simplify that process on a public event, create some awareness, maybe create opportunity for one-on-one pre-consultations with your development services team. So there's really a much stronger understanding of when businesses need to start that planning and development process so they can be prepared for the timeline and the costs that come and the complexities that come, and start thinking about that. Next slide, please. So the next action area is local business marketing and awareness. And this action area seeks to increase awareness and utilization of local products and services of businesses generally. It includes 3 action areas and really trying to drive that business to business connection and business to consumer connection. Next slide, please. The next action area is business development support. So the objective is to enable a more competitive environment for local businesses to thrive in. This one is obviously quite meaty. You got a lot of feedback about, ways to support the business community. There are 11 actions in this action area, and a couple of them just to highlight, continuing your business visitation program and an annual survey so you can continue to monitor trends in your economy, the needs of the business community, and also identify businesses that are looking to expand so you can support them and ensure they're expanding in your backyard, all the way up to connecting businesses to resources to support their expansion and resiliency through this tough economic time. Next slide, please. The 4th action area is workforce. So this is to address the workforce demands of the growing business community. There's 3 actions here, and really just looking to work with partners to enhance that environment for workforce development, attraction, and movement around the community. Next slide, please. The last action area is around investment readiness. So the objective is to prepare the municipality to welcome impactful investment. And there are 10 actions within this, and ranging from enhancing the website to be more prepared and ready to answer the call when businesses are looking to invest in the community, all the way to advocating for infrastructure support, development support, all of those different planning pieces. Next slide, please. So that was a lot of information in a short time. Apologize to run through that so quickly, but just the next steps to kind of share. So there is a stakeholder survey open right now. So the draft action plan was circulated to every business who participated. There is a webpage on your website that you can access this survey and provide additional input. Again, if you're listening today, or if you're a council member around the table or a business who contributed, we welcome any additional input and feedback, and we'll be reviewing that. The survey closes April 2nd, so we'll be reviewing any feedback we receive, crafting the final report based on that, changing any recommendations if there's anything significant. I know we've only received one response right now, and my understanding is it's been quite positive. So that's a good sign so far. And then the goal is to have this back to you as a staff report on April 23rd, I believe is the date. Yes. So with that, next slide, please, Jen. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome any questions now, or you can catch my email and shoot me an email for an additional chat or any questions you might have as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Council, I'll open the table now for anyone who has any questions for Mr. Oosterban. Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
No, and thank you very much, Ms. Oosterban, for this. And we did hear it at the Economic Development Committee meeting, so many of us have heard this already, and it's extremely comprehensive, and I'd like to thank the team here for having put this together. It's a good work plan going forward, and we just have to monitor it in these very difficult and trying and uncertain times with the shifting priorities. So I know there aren't a lot of questions, perhaps, because three of us, have been through the meetings, excuse me, and with community business members. But we just want to stress that the door is open, and we really appreciate your assistance in bringing this forward. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor.
Anyone? Councillor Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you, and I apologize for coming in late. I very much appreciate this, and I think it's important to reiterate the message of, Oro-Medonte wants to support our businesses in the levers that we have as a small municipality. That doesn't mean we can change the rules of the province or the country, but we want to make sure that we're doing the things that we can at the local level to support businesses that we have and to engage the businesses we have, to keep the businesses we have, and to attract new businesses. So very much appreciate this. Thank you very much to Jen and to Donna as well for your efforts on this, and looking forward to it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and thank you for taking time to come to the chamber today and explain to the remainder of council, but some exciting stuff coming forward. I appreciate all the work you've done. Okay, so thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw.
Madam Clerk, could we have a motion to receive the...
Moved by Lavoie, seconded by Clark. Be it resolved that 1, the draft Oro-Medonte Business Engagement Program Data Summary Report and Action Plan presented by Oosterban Strategies be received, and 2, that Council authorize staff and Oosterban Strategies to finalize the actions based on stakeholder and council feedback and bring back the final report for adoption.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. And is there any items on the agenda that anyone would like to have moved forward earlier in the meeting? Seeing none. We're now on to item 10, open forum. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone registered for open forum today?
No, Mr. Mayor, we did not receive any registrations.
Okay, then I won't go through the detail of what you're supposed to do if you're coming up. No one's coming up, don't want to. So we'll move to item 11, reports of municipal officers. May we have a draft motion for 11A, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Shell. Be it resolved, 1, that DS 2025-14, Camille Budina, Manager Development Engineering, reassumption of Public Works and Highways within Plan 51M 1079, the Turtle River Subdivision, Bockley Investments, Inc., be received and adopted. 2, that the Township issue the certificate of assumption for the Turtle River Subdivision, developed by Bockley Investments, Inc., Plan 51M 1079. 3, that the appropriate draft bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration. 4, that the developer be notified under the Manager Development Engineering signature.
Okay. Members of council, the floor is open for discussion. At this time, is there any comments or questions? Seeing none. Any comments in regard to the draft motion? None? Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? None? That is carried, Madam Clerk. May we have a draft motion for 11B, please?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Shell. Be it resolved, 1, that DS 2025-035, Camille Budina, Manager, Development Engineering, reassumption of Public Works within Plan 51R 36876, the Heights of Moonstone Subdivision, Bockley Investments, Inc., be received and adopted. 2, that the Township issue the certificate of assumption for the Heights of Moonstone Stage 2 subdivision developed by Bockley Investments, Inc., reference Plan 51R 36876. 3, that the appropriate draft bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration. And 4, that Schedule A of Bylaw 2021-114 be amended to update the 2-way stop to a 3-way stop at Bockley Avenue and Boyd Crescent intersection. And 5, that the developer be notified of council's decision under the Manager of Development Engineering signature.
Okay, floor is open for discussion or questions. Seeing none. Any amendments to the draft motion? None? Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. It's good to see this stuff somewhere. We're definitely building homes and moving the projects forward. So that's all good. So we're now on to 11C, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Shell, seconded by Lavoie. Be it resolved that ES 2025-04, Michelle Jacoby, Director of Environmental Services, and Shannon Johnson, Director of Finance, Chief Financial Officer, Asset Transfer, Municipal Services Corporation, Asset Transfer Municipal Service Corporation, be received and adopted. 2, that draft bylaw 2025-028 for the transfer of environmental services assets effective January 1, 2025, be brought forward for council's consideration.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Ms. Jacoby? Councillor Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. Jacoby, and this is hopefully an easy one. Just in layman's terms, can you explain what's happening? Just for the public because sometimes it can be a little bit confusing.
I can, thank you. This is a restructuring transaction in accordance with public sector accounting standards. You may recall that this was in a bylaw a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, due to the changes we've been making in our financial restructuring, it was placed on hold, and now it's going to be put forth for January 1st, 2025.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Lavoie.
Thank you very much. And so this would, for clarity as well, just constitute all of the waterworks systems and pumping wells and that sort of thing.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions for Ms. Jacoby? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? You got a perfect score, Ms. Jacoby. Congratulations. May we have a draft motion for 11D, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Bard. It be it resolved, 1, that CS 2025-03, Yvonne Aubuchon, Clerk, read 2024 Annual Accessibility Status Report, previously presented by Yvonne Aubuchon, Clerk, at the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, be received and adopted. 2, that Council approve CS 2025-03. 3, that upon a Council's approval, the report be added to the Township's website in accordance with provincial legislation.
Council, any questions or comments regarding this matter? Okay, I am glad to see we're moving in the right direction is the main thing, right? We're continuing to make improvements within our community facilities. So I'll call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? There are none. That is carried, Madam Clerk. Reports of municipal officers for information only. Item 12. Members of council, any questions or comments with respect to these items? May we have a motion, Madam Clerk, for the items then, please?
Moved by Lavoie, seconded by Shall. Be it resolved that the reports as listed under heading 12, Reports of Municipal Officers for Information Only, be received.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? There are none. That is carried. Reports and announcements of members of council. Councillor Shell.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, through you to everyone else here and the public at home. Announcement from the Lake Country Doctors Recruitment and Retention Committee. It was on the news last night, but for those who didn't see it or hear about it, the City of Orillia has donated $500,000 to the committee to help them recruit and retain doctors. That's that one. And then the NVCA is trying to remind everybody to watch out for the riverbanks. They're slippery and muddy. The water level is up and high, and any ice that's out there still is not safe to be on.
No, good points. Yeah, I know it's still cold and there's still ice, but it's not a good place to be. Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, through you. I will do an update on Heritage Committee. We met last week and just basically went over some housekeeping items for the Heritage Committee and made a list of items we wanted to follow up and report back on since we hadn't been together on a regular basis, and just wanted to get an idea of where we were with certain projects. One of those projects is just a check of the township cairns and monuments, just to have a look at the sort of the status of them and if they require any work. So my fellow Councillor Shell and I have divvied up the list of those, and we'll be looking at those sites over the next week or so, making notes and taking pictures and bringing it back to the committee. And if there's any work needed on any of those, we'll have to come back to the township and have a look at that. And then the other piece is for the Heritage Committee. The sale of our heritage books is always on our docket, and we've done a very good job in selling a lot of the publications over the last few years and raising money, and so much so that now the story of Oro is sold out. All print copies are sold out. So there's been discussion as to how we move forward to make those available in the future for people. And so we are going to look at perhaps the opportunity for a request and a one-off print through sort of an e-service versus going to a publisher, because it's extremely expensive now to have books published. So we'll be back on that one, but I think that's a good news story, but we do have a gap to be filled there. And then just with regard to community events, I wanted to mention that constituent Ralph Price and his wife Sandy have once again organized the Fiddle Jam Square Dance for raising funds for the Cope Dogs. That will happen this Saturday at Edie Hall, and it starts at 1:30, and it's always a very well received event. And I was speaking with Mr. Price, and they're going to year over year increase the funds already from sponsorships, so they're very pleased with that. So if you're looking for something to do on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, that's a very enjoyable event to go to. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, and thank you very much. Sounds exciting here in Oro. Just a couple of items from the County Council. One is that County Council were supportive of the motion that we passed here with regard to the land facilitation process, and so they've asked that the county staff prepare a report back on the implications to the county itself, as it has its own holdings and its own interests with regard to how this process proceeds. Excuse me. Secondly, there was a situation at County Council yesterday wherein the quorum collapsed just prior to the motion for the change in composition and the continuance of the weighted vote, when a majority of the councillors were not available, and so that caused an adjournment of the meeting. Just want to say that all councillors remain committed, all county councillors remain committed to their principles and integrity, and stand strongly for fairness and equity in the county. All councillors stay dedicated to representing their constituents and unified in ensuring the ongoing operations of the county. So thank you very much.
Okay, no, and that was, I think, the main message there, as Mayor Doug Measures of Clearview stated on the top story last night, I believe, on CTV. You know, is that the majority of the representatives on that council are not in support of going to a reduction with the weighted vote in the mannerism that is carried out now. And that's definitely something we'd like to have corrected before it goes through the full process. And there still are processes yet which may result in it coming back with 32 council, but it would be nice to have those imperfections answered up front rather than deal with them after the fact. It just gives a little more, I think, security and comfort to the residents. Councillor Hutchison.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Greenlaw. I actually made myself available to go to the meeting yesterday because I knew that this topic was going to be discussed, and that as our council with the triple majority, that we are possibly faced with having to decide here at this council how we were going to support whether to reduce the size of county council or not. And I would just say I would encourage my fellow councillors to review the tape from yesterday's meeting. There was a very, very wholesome debate on the pros and cons of reducing the size of council or having it remain the same. I wanted to go in with a very open mind so that I could really understand the implications of this from a number of different angles. I was also able to make note of a number of the councillors that I don't know that I now feel I can reach out to and ask questions to help me decide, if that happens to come to this House, how I would support or not support the recommendation.
No. I think the other thing that really stood out from the very, I think, very informative debate was the reasons to reduce to a 16-member council weren't anywhere near as plentiful as it was to remain at 32. And the side that was supporting the reduction were using broad paintbrush terms like efficiencies, but there weren't components clearly defined what those efficiencies included. And that's what I know the deputy and a number of my colleagues were pushing for is, okay, it's great, okay, so but give us examples of what the efficiencies are. So, it's good, it's great discussion, as Councillor Hutchinson said, who was viewing it from the gallery. And I think that's the great thing about having a larger body sometimes, is that it brings so many different perspectives, and the public is better represented sometimes. But we'll let the process play out and see where we come. But it was interesting. I don't know when the last time is they shut county council down, or if they ever have, from half the majority walking out. So a couple of announcements. I want to give an announcement that Roz Llewellyn wanted me to read in regards to the new community center. This fall, the township is thrilled to open the new recreational center at 737 Horseshoe Valley Road West, featuring a full-size gymnasium, versatile multi-purpose room, complete with change rooms and showers and administrative space for municipal customers' services. In anticipation of the opening, There are two opportunities for residents to get involved. The first is the first newest recreational facility needs a name, and we need your help to naming it. Submit your ideas up to April 4th. And then secondly, we have also to launch a survey to get input on the types of programs and activities residents would like to see offered in the space. Your feedback will help the program be a vibrant and inclusive space for everyone that can enjoy a variety of health and wellness opportunities. And I know Ms. Grubb would really appreciate that, because she's really keen and looking forward to moving this project along, and she wants to make sure it's as well set up to best facilitate the residents of our entire township. Both links for naming the campaign and program survey are listed on the township website under Community Center Partnership tile on the homepage. So please participate in that, and the grand opening date is yet to be determined, but keep checking our website and it will be announced well in advance. And the only other announcement I have is the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority will do their groundbreaking this Friday on their new Scanlon Creek LSRC Educational Center. So that's that, you know, with COVID and everything got delayed. The cost is definitely more significant than prior to COVID, but that's just the unfortunate reality everywhere. So look forward to that opening up once it's up and built. And I see the deputy's already given the, oh, sorry, Councillor Schell.
That's okay. I didn't want to interrupt you. Back on the community center, through you to CAO Dunn, or sorry, Binns. Have we come up with a terms of use agreement yet?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Schell. Staff are currently working on the operations agreement. Anticipate that coming probably by May. There is a draft agreement. There is a joint venture agreement that Council's approved, but the operations agreement's a few months out still.
Okay. Any other announcements from members of council? No? Feel free, go ahead, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I just wanted to mention on behalf of the NVCA that I think they produced a map now for the Big Cedar area that will allow for this permit exclusion. I'm just saying this publicly in case there's somebody out there who has an interest in whatever they're doing on their property in that community. So I think we were trying to make an outreach to the representatives. So thank you very much.
No, perfect. Yes, and that was great news. We reached out and they gave us that clarity, which is fantastic. Okay, so now we're on to item 14, consent agenda. Is there any items you'd like pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, may we have the motion to receive the consent agenda, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Lavoie, be it resolved that the staff recommendations with respect to the items listed under consent agenda correspondence be adopted as printed.
All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And now we're at 15. So may we have a motion for, we have, this motion is in regards to the naming of the school. And they've asked that is this not the one, 15?
15A is for an invitation to join the committee.
Yeah, sorry, no.
Thank you.
I was taking a long way to explain that, though. I'll make it more concise. So, members of council, is there a member who wishes to be considered to the school naming committee? Councillor Hutchison? Anyone else? See none? Madam Clerk, do you want to read the motion for this? And we have Councillor Hutchison has volunteered to be the fill in the blank.
Thank you. Moved by Clark, seconded by Bard. Be it resolved, one, that the correspondence from Simcoe County District School Board, re-invitation to join the naming committee for the new school in Oro-Medonte, appointment of a council representative to the school's naming committee be received. 2, that Councillor Hutchison be appointed to the school's naming committee. 3, that the Simcoe County District School Board be advised of council's decision under the clerk's signature.
Okay. You've heard the motion. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, so the addendum item, which is 15B, is in regards to the letter received from the City of Barrie in regards to our motion of the boundary adjustment. Madam Clerk, I guess first read the motion and then we can discuss it after that, please.
Moved by Lavoie, seconded by Hutchison. Be it resolved, one, that the correspondence dated March 19, 2025 from Alex Nettle, Mayor, City of Barrie, re-boundary adjustment provincial facilitation process be received. 2, that the Township of Oro-Medonte remains committed to its participation in the facilitation process with the Township of Springwater, the City of Barrie, and the County of Simcoe to refine the terms of reference for Stage 3 with the objective of developing mutually acceptable approaches to enable growth in the area and achieve local and provincial priorities such as the creation of housing and opportunities for employment in the boundaries between Barrie, Springwater, and Barrie, Oro-Medonte, as previously communicated. 3, that the Province of Ontario and the Provincial Land Development Facilitator be advised accordingly under the Mayor's signature.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Any questions, comments regarding this? Councillor Schell?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. Through you to the floor in general, I'm concerned about continuing with this. The accusations I'm reading in here or seeing in here is that we breached confidentiality by going to the press and on the talks. So I just don't know where we're going to go from here. I think
I'm just looking to see.
Maybe I guess I would like to reconsider. We look forward to looking at this again.
Okay. No. I'm not sure where. I'm not sure where I see the confidentiality breach from talking about it. My understanding of the process was the components of the discussions up to the report. We're not getting into what this is in response to Deputy Mayor Lavoie's motion. Yes. Of how we move forward in Stage 3. And what Deputy Mayor Lavoie was trying to, well, I thought clearly and well articulated. It was a very lengthy motion. I don't know, Madam Clerk, did you want to read it again? Just kidding. No, but, actually, Springwater made their clerk read it as well. It was, so it's got lots of airtime. But I think what the purposes of it is we don't have a clean definition of what it is we're trying to facilitate. And we are behind schedule and we are over budget in the facilitation process. And what Deputy Mayor Lavoie has laid out is, we need to clearly define where we are, how we're going to move forward within a scheduled time parameter. And if we can't come to some sort of facilitated conclusion that's amicable to all parties in 6 months, then everyone would write their, for lack of better terms, the factums and submit them to the province, and then we would be able to rebuttal whatever Barrie submits, and they could rebuttal ours, and let's make a decision. Because there's no need to, I agree, from a cost perspective, we need to either show strong forward movement, but we need to make a decision without prolonging this for a number of years. And, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. No, and I know CAO Binns wanted to add some color.
Okay, I guess I should just get right straight to my point. At the time that we made our vote on the motion, we were not aware that the motion brought forward by the Deputy Mayor was in violation of the signed agreement and was violation of confidentiality.
No, because what he proposed was a different path forward, an alternative, because what was laid out in the facilitation was not getting any traction in substance in order to move to a conclusion. So I think what the deputy was just saying, these things here are not working, and therefore if we need to restructure the model moving forward. And it's a suggestion. We weren't saying this is what it has to be. It was I thought a very well thought out and thorough alternative that would hopefully produce a much better result. And I'll turn it now to CAO Benz.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. So just maybe to refresh council's memory with where we're at, because it has been a while. The last report that we had before council was in January, and if you recall, that report outlined the draft terms of reference for stage 3. There was some recommendations from staff that were provided into the process. And direction from council at that point in time was to report back following an updated terms of reference. So that went to the township of Springwater, the city of Barrie, and the county of Simcoe. We've just received a preliminary draft of what those terms of reference look like. So I think the motion that was passed by council was part of that feedback loop in the revision of what the terms of reference would look like for a stage 3 in the process to move along. The next step in this process would be to hear back from the facilitator on what the work plan looks like for stage 3. Following that, staff will report back to council with to seek further direction on how we move forward. And we're anticipating timing for a report sometime likely mid-April. So it's coming very shortly.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you very much for that update, CAO Benz. Deputy Mayor LaFois.
Yes. Excuse me. Thank you. I was going to comment on the letter from the mayor of Barrie, but I am curious nonetheless about this breach of confidentiality, which I would like to have more thoroughly explained. I mean, I think the motion that we put forth here and accepted, adopted, and passed, I think unanimously, was really in reference to the ongoing discussions with regard to the next terms of reference, which we had been invited to do by the facilitator. And there was no discussion in that about what had transpired by way of discussions or negotiations between the party with regard to the land that may or may not be acquired. So I'm just curious as to where a conclusion might have come from that there was a breach, because that's a fairly significant issue. And if there has one that's occurred, then it would be appropriate to investigate it and make that determination. So I don't know if there's any evidence to that, or perhaps there could be a response to that through you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. No, I'm not aware. But do you know because I got the letter open in front. So where does it say that there was a breach of confidentiality in the letter? Because I apologize. I may have overlooked it or not picked up on it. Okay.
Perhaps the last sentence in there is saying, on hope that Oro-Medonte Council will reconsider their position and come back to the provincial land development facilitation table to come to a locally developed resolution. And I think that...
Yeah, no, and you know, that's a very good sentence to point out, because I did point that out at County Council this week. And this is where it's a statement by the city of Barrie and Mayor Nuttall that says, I hope Oro-Medonte Council will reconsider their position and come back to the provincial land facilitation table to come to a locally developed resolution. See where that's a very confusing or misleading statement is we have never moved away from the table. We've always been at the table. We've been likely the most, one of the most, if not the most, staff active municipality of the three partners in this facilitation process. So, you know, I can see, I think maybe you just misunderstood it potentially, but we remain committed. At the end of the day, we do not want to walk from the table. I think we're engaged 100%. We're not 100% opposed, but if we're going to give up land, there needs to be clear, concise, factually sustainable evidence that says that land needs to go there to benefit the entire area. I think there's other alternatives personally, and I can say I think most of council agrees. There's not an excuse me. There's not a necessity for us to give up that land to Barrie, where it's going to automatically be more advantageous to the area than if we develop it. So that's I think where it's at. But I do appreciate you giving your feedback on that, and I hope we were able to provide some clarity.
Well, I just know that people out in the public are asking, you know, why this is coming out in public when you're probably supposed to be working behind closed doors in negotiating, and now we're out in the open forum. And
well, because phase 1 and phase 2 were complete, the reports were put out, so everything is out on the table now. So we have not got to phase 3 because we're still waiting for the terms of reference and what phase 3 will all include before we go to the next step. And I don't know if Mr. Van Boncourt wants to help to provide more clarity, or Mr. Spagnell or CAO Benz, but I think we're between stages right now, and it's kind of like everything's been put on pause since the provincial election because they've just reassigned ministers to their departments, and so that's kind of why everything's in pause. But I don't believe we've breached anything from a confidentiality standpoint or the procedures laid out. Staff and CAO, if you'd like to add anything, please feel free.
I'll just reiterate it. I think what I said before is that we're really at that stage of laying out what the next steps are with input from all of the parties, and that's what we're awaiting. That's the role of the facilitator in this process, to lay out the steps for stage 3. And as I mentioned, that'll be coming before council for their direction. The January report that I referenced, Mayor Greenlaw, you are correct that we committed, and part of the resolution identified our continued commitment to the process, along with some feedback to be considered in stage 3. The motion that was passed unanimously by council was also forwarded to the facilitator and to the province for consideration in what stage 3 would look like. So that's really kind of where we're at in the process, that we do need updated direction from council on how we move forward. But for us to be able to pen that report and put that before council, we need to understand what the draft work plan looks like.
Yeah. No, thank you. Mr. Van Boncourt, did you want to add anything, or are you?
Thank you, Worship. No, I think Mr. Binns has covered it well. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no. Okay, so, you know, I hope, good questions, Councillor Schell, because you know what it does? It hopefully maybe clarifies things for people sitting at home as well. When, you know, if we're hearing these rumors and questions and you bring them forth and we can provide clarity, hopefully that's it. But, you know, any other residents that have concerns regarding this and how we're moving forward, you know, all of our phone numbers and email addresses are on the website, and feel free to reach out.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Greenlaw. I just know that I've been asked by members of the community about this, and they're concerned that if we breached anything, that it would be a black mark on us and not help with our negotiations.
You know what, people, and I'm not saying, I respect that, and we all do everything as much within our conscience to make sure we don't breach, and there, believe me, everybody breaches something at one point or another by accident sometimes, you know, but we try to put the safeguards up so we don't make those mistakes, and you know, we try to vet things out before we put it out in the public to make sure we are within the guidelines and the terms of reference. So CAO Benz.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. Maybe just through to the public that may be watching, the township does have extensive information that's up to date and factual on the township's website. So just if people do want to get informed on this important issue, both the City of Barrie and the City of Aurelia boundary expansions, there's all of the up-to-date information is on those pages.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Bard.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So is Barrie giving, like, under the impression that we've walked away, and should that be clarified? So I feel like we're accepting this letter that's saying that we've walked away, but we haven't.
No, we will reach out and respond and bring clarity, unless you've already done it already, CAO.
Thank you, and good question, Councillor Bard. That's really the intent of the resolution that's before you, is to receive the communication and reaffirm the township's commitment to the process.
Okay, perfect. Any other comments? Councillor Hutchison.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry, it's all good.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I believe that by receiving the Stage 1 and Stage 2 reports and having those discussed at council in previous meetings, and that this information is on our website, that this has now become a public a conversation and has not been behind closed doors for some time. Therefore, there couldn't be a breach. And I guess my concern is we as councillors have a responsibility to direct our constituents to the appropriate staff to get those answers so that they're not misinformed.
No, and I think, I know Springwater's having it come back. They did discuss it at their last meeting, and they were very, very complimentary to the deputy's motion and the township's position. So I think everyone wants to bring a closure to this matter rather than let it drag on and on and on. So, because at the end of the day, that's an expense to the taxpayer. So anyways, Madam Clerk, can we have... did you read the motion for that? Yes? Then I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? There are none. And now we're at 16, notice of motions. I have none on the agenda. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to provide advanced notice to a notice of motion I'll be putting on to the next agenda in regards to, as the Deputy Mayor appropriately pointed out, backyard chickens. So I just wanted to provide some potential notice to that. Thank you.
That's good, because the snow is still there. You gotta give it a meeting, right? So, or two. Okay, Deputy Mayor Lavoie. I can see you up there waiting.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Apart from doing the chicken dance, I did want to go back for one moment to go to our motion, which I didn't have in front of me. Goodness, I had it there for a second, but it's...
you know what?
It's very clear in the motion that regardless of how the further discussions are constituted, that we will be participating. There's no question in the motion. So I think the letter...
No, well, in that we'll go back through the motion that we just passed. So I think that's all good. So, okay, so Councillor Clark, you've got, you've announced your notice of motion for the next meeting. Anything else, or do we move to 17? Bylaws. May we have a motion for the draft bylaws under item 17, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Clark. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2025-014, 2025-015, 2025-025, 2025-027, and 2025-028 be read a first, second, and third time, passed, be engrossed by the Deputy Clerk, signed and sealed by the Mayor.
Okay, are there any comments or questions on any of the bylaws? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? There are none. Item 18, we removed that from the agenda, so there is no closed session item at today's meeting. It's another bell ringer. 3 meetings in a row, I think. But and then we'll go to 19, confirmation bylaw. Madam Clerk, may we have a motion for the confirmation bylaw?
Moved by Clark, seconded by Shell, be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-029, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on Wednesday, March 26, 2025, be read at first, second, and third time, passed, be engrossed by the deputy clerk, signed and sealed by the mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? There are none, and that is carried. And may we have a motion to adjourn, please?
Moved by Shell, seconded by Hutchison, be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 4:15 p.m.
All in favor? Opposed? That is carried, and I encourage everyone, get out there this weekend. The temperatures are going to warm up, so it's great maple syrup time in Oro-Medonte, and we have a number of producers in the area, so get out and visit the sugar shacks and enjoy the good Canadian experience. Thank you very much, and have a great weekend.